This will be the fifth video in the series for Excel 2013, and in this video we'll try to look at some formatting features which are available in Excel. Now, a lot of the formatting things that you know in Word apply to Excel, but there are some special things in Excel because we are dealing with cells. So in this video we'll talk about things like merge and center, wrapping text. We'll look at what's called conditional formatting. We'll also talk a little bit about format as table, inserting, deleting rows and columns, and also we'll talk about some other things. So the first thing, I've got some information here, and say this was my title, and I wanted my title to be put up here somewhere in the middle of this, not in the middle of this cell, which is this button here, which will center it, but only in this cell. So what I have to do is I have to first highlight up to here, or whatever cells I want to use to put in the middle of, and then I use this merge and center button. When I press it, it puts it in the middle. So now what it did, it actually merged the cells into one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cells got merged into one, and then the title is put in the center. And you can press the same button to turn it off. That means it goes back to the way it was, so I get access to all of my cells. I'll highlight it again, and I can hit merge and center. And you can highlight it up to any cells you want. Now here, January, February, March, I can highlight them. And what I want to do is I want to put them in a different angle. What I mean by that is this button here, which stands for orientation. So if I click it, and I can choose to put it clockwise, so it puts it in a slant direction. Or I can make it vertical text, so it stands up. Now when you want to change it back to the way things were, you'll have to click here again, and I have to click on the same button that is turned on, and you'll see there is like a color on it a little bit. So that tells me this is on, so I press it, so it goes back. So you can click here, and you can say make it rotate text down, so it will be like this, and you can turn it off. Now if you ever want it, you could click here, and you can go to Format Cell Alignment, and a window will pop up in which I can add more angles. So see this here on the right hand side, this red dot, I can take it and I can move it at a different angle, and I can click OK. So now it's at that angle, and I can come here, go back, and I can bring it back to 0. It becomes like that. So this is called orientation. I can highlight these numbers, and I can hit the dollar sign, which I'll talk about in the previous video. So when I put the dollar sign, you see the negative numbers show up in the bracket because it put the accounting format. Now while it is highlighted, I could click here again, and I can make it general so that it goes back to the way it was. Now the terms of highlighting, when I highlight it like this, it only affects this. But if I click on number 3, it means everything all the way till the end is highlighted now. So if I put the dollar sign, now everything is affected on that row 3. Now if you wanted to make some more changes, say I wanted to make the negative numbers to show up in red. To do that, you can go from number more while it is highlighted, because you gotta have something highlighted, or you can right click on the highlighted material and then you go to format cells. So either way, you'll come to this window. In the number, I'm looking for currency, and in the currency I can choose how many negative numbers I want, or how I want my negative numbers to show up. So I can say show it in red and bracket. I can also choose the decimal places, and I click OK. So now we see the negative numbers will show up like that. Now if I click here and I put a negative 100 and I hit enter, should have changed. Now that's changed, that it strange that it didn't change. It should have changed. I'm thinking there's something going on with my recording program is affecting it, because if I pause my recording program and I'll come back to it, it starts to show up. So you can check it at home and see what happens. I think it should have changed because I've set the format to the whole section here. So I'm just going to do it one more time. So it changes, and let's put -50, and I'll use this check mark here. Yeah, for some reason it's not changing. So I'm just going to pause the video. Yeah. As soon as I paused the video and I came back, the color changed. So I'm thinking it's something that my recording program and this new Office 2013 are having some issues with each other, but you should be able to see this when you do this. So that's the options to set your currency, and in fact you can set for things anything that you wanted. You can set something for date, so you can show dates in different ways, and there are other options like in special you see telephone numbers. So I'll show you the telephone number here. So maybe up here, say I wanted to type people's telephone number. So say I just highlight this for now, and I'll go to number more. This symbol stands for more, special, and I choose phone number and I click OK. So now when I type a telephone number here, 416123456 and I hit enter or tab, and I think I'll have to pause the video and come back. Yeah, as soon as I paused the video and I came back to it, it changed. So this is the way telephone numbers will show up, so that I don't have to put the brackets and the hyphen. It's automatically there. And the same way the numbers will also work for dates. Next thing I'm going to talk about is this wrap text option. So what I want to do is in this cell A5, I have typed this first name and last name. Now I don't want to extend the column, which is from here I can extend the column, but I don't want to do that. But I want to make it so that first name is on the top and last name is underneath it in the same cell. To do this, I click on the cell, or I can click on number 5 so that it highlights the whole row, and I use the wrap text option. As soon as I do it, you see it will wrap it, and now I can reduce the row height. Okay. So that's the idea of wrap text. Now if I type my first and last name, it won't do the wrap text because the information is fitting in the cell, because it needs to be, so I need to reduce the column width so that the wrap text will work. Okay. So you see there, as soon as I reduce the column width, the wrap text word. This pound symbol means now this number doesn't fit in that cell, so I'll have to extend it to make it fit. So that's what the pound error means. It means that the information is not fitting in the cell, so you need to extend the column. So you can extend the column from there, or you can click here and then you can go to Format Column Width, and then you can type a number in there, 15, or I can make it 12. So now it is smaller. You can even highlight multiple columns like this. So from the top you go to B, left click and hold it, and you highlight. So all the columns are highlighted. Or you click on B, hold the control button down on the keyboard, and then click on D, and then click on F. So only these columns will be affected by using Format Column Width. Or I can click on row 1, hold the control, click on row 4th, then I can go to Format Row Height, and I can type a number to affect only those 2 rows. Or I can highlight multiple rows. So I point to one, left click and hold it and drag. Now I can highlight and go to Format Row Height and affect all of these row heights. So I can type a number in there, 12. So they all are size 12. Or I can say auto fit, and it will do it like this. And you can always manually change things. So that's the options for wrapping, and also how to adjust your column width and row height. Now I'm going to show you this thing called shrink to cell. To get to it, you can right click and go to Format Cells, or you can go to Alignment More button, and in here you want to choose in the alignment section shrink to fit. And if I click OK, now whatever is typed in that cell is shrunk. So if you had a lot of word, it will just get shrunk a lot. The next thing we'll talk about is the borders button. In the previous video, I talked to you about in the page layout something called Gridlines. So I'm going to go to the page layout tab, and there was this gridline option. That is, when I go to my print preview, so I'm going to go to print preview from here, which I had added through this button, and then chose print preview. So I have a shortcut here. So this print preview, I don't have any lines on it. So in this corner here, if I want, I can go to this page setup, and then from the sheet I can choose grid lines, and I click OK, and you see it puts a dotted line around it. Okay, so I'm just going to come back, and that grid line is that check mark next to print. So you can do it from here too. I'll just remove it because I want to show you how you can put a borders, because borders are solid lines. So I'll come to home. So say if I highlight all of this information, and I can go to the drop down button for borders, and then I can choose all borders. So there it is, it shows me that, and I'll go to print preview, and you can see right there it's a thick line which is a border. I'll come back. Now if you wanted, you could actually highlight it, and you can go to drop down button for borders and then more borders. Now you can choose the style of the borders, and I can also choose the colors, and I can make it outline and inside, because sometimes they don't get showed up here, so you need to press it, and I click OK. Now it's got that kind of a border. I can always highlight it, and I can go back to the borders drop down button and then choose no borders. So you have the options to make fonts changes from here, like fonts and sizes. You can do all of those changes up here. Next thing, I'm going to go to sheet 2. So I had used this plus sign to keep on adding more sheets. You can always double click on it, and you can type something in there. So I can call this conditional formatting, because I want to call it conditional formatting. So you double click on it, or you right click on it and you can choose rename, and you can also delete it if you wanted to delete the sheet. And in the tab color, I can set colors for the tabs so that they'll be visible, so I can point to it. So in this example, I want to explain to you what is known as conditional formatting, which is meaning that it will do a formatting based on certain conditions. So if it meets a certain criteria, it will format it in a certain way, otherwise not. So in this cell, I'm going to do a simple math calculation equal to sales for 2000 minus sales for 2011, because I want to figure out whether my sales went up or down. So I'm going to use the check mark, and now I'm going to use the fill handle, and then there it is. So now I have some negative numbers and I have some positive numbers. So the condition I want to set is that make the negative numbers a certain color and make the positive numbers a different color. So again, you could highlight the whole column, or I could just highlight these cells. And I'll go to conditional formatting drop down button, highlight cell rules greater than, and in this I can type any number, because I can say greater than 0, which will be all positive numbers, but you could put any numbers. You can even click on a cell where a number is typed if you wanted to. I can click in this drop down button and I can choose something green in color, or I can click in the drop down button and I can go to custom format, and from here I can choose a green color. I can choose more options if I needed it, and I can click OK, and I click OK. Now you see the positive numbers have a green color. I'll go back while it is highlighted, highlight cell rules, less than, and less than 0 I want something red in color. So you can choose whatever from here, or go to custom format, and then I'll choose something red color, and I'll click OK, and I'll click OK. So there's the condition. Now if this number changes, 625 changes to 725, I hit enter. Now as soon as the number became positive, it became green in color. I can highlight this, I can go to conditional formatting, and there are other things you can set, like icon sets. You see that as I'm pointing to it, it starts to change on the left hand side. So it added this. So a lot of things you can do here. If I change my mind, I can go back to conditional formatting, clear rules, and I can clear the rules from selected cells or from the entire sheet, so the sheet itself. So if I choose that, it will remove that. Now there are other ways you can set conditions. So to show that, I'll just click here on A. I'll go to conditional formatting, highlight cell rules, and I choose equal to. So you see there are a lot of other options that you can look at between, so you can choose certain numbers between this and this. Equal to, so I'll say if the cell information is equal to east, say I want to do something, I'll say make it yellow, and I'll click OK. So you see, as soon as it sees the east, it makes that color because it meets the criteria. So if I type east again, because I had highlighted the whole column, and I hit enter, it should have changed again, I think. Yeah, as soon as I click away, it starts to change. It's just my recording program having an effect. So that's another way you can set conditional formatting. Now let's talk a little bit about this format as table. What it means is that if I highlight this and I go to format as table, and I can choose any of these styles, so whatever styles I want, I choose one, and it will highlight the information. Even if you didn't, it would have highlighted it for you. Now it's asking me my table has a header, which is my region, and this is my header, so I need to leave it like that. If you didn't have a header, you can remove it. So I click OK, and now you see it shows up like a table with some drop down buttons for filtering, which we'll talk about in the next coming up videos. So you can filter it and say show me only east, and there are some tools for that you can do more. I'm just going to come to sheet 1 again, and just to show you something, that if I wanted, I could highlight these months, and they have these cell styles. So if you wanted to apply some quickly something like heading 1 style, heading 2, heading 3, or I can make it certain colors, so you can just apply those cell styles quickly to wherever you wanted it. I'll come back to sheet 3. Conditional formatting. So up here I want to talk about this insert delete button. So say you made some mistakes and you wanted to add some rows, or you wanted to add a cell, you can use them using the insert rows button. So I can add rows, I can add columns, I can even delete rows or delete columns, or I can even delete cells. So just to show you this example, I'll click here on south, and I can insert a sheet row, and you see it adds the row, and say this was like north 1.1, and now I can type something in there. Now if I wanted to delete that row, today you can do undo but not tomorrow, so I need to know, so I can click here and I choose delete sheet row because I'm clicked on that row, so it will delete that. You'll also find this option when you right click. You'll see the option to insert table rows above, because you are in a table, so it's giving you those options, and you can delete the table rows or columns. So the same way up here, if I want it up here, I can insert a sheet column or a table column, so it adds an extra table column here. I'll come to sheet 1 just to show you the difference. If I click here, I go to insert, you see the table option is not here because I don't have a table. Now I can insert a sheet row above it, and then I can type Monday, Tuesday, and if I want, I can use the fill handle. And I'm on that row, so I can delete this sheet row. Now say for example I only wanted to move this first name last name below. I wanted to type something else here, so I'll insert a cell and I'll move the cell down because I wanted to move the cell down, not the entire row. So you see now the cell has been moved down, and now up here I can type something else. Okay. So I need to highlight it and I can make it wrap. So that way I can insert a cell, and I can even insert a cell from the drop down button. I choose insert cell and I can move it to the right. So that means this cell is empty now and I can type something else. And if I wanted, I can only delete this cell by going to the delete cell option. And now if I wanted to move this first name last name up, I can say move the cells up. So it's moved that up. So when you make mistakes in typing, the insert and delete options are very useful to allow you to move things around. and so you don't have to waste your time deleting everything and typing everything all over again. So this is a very useful tool. So we'll now talk about the next thing for this video, and I only have two more things to cover. On sheet 3 I have this thing called concatenate functions. So there are a lot of functions in Excel that allow you to do this thing. So I'll introduce you a simple function called concatenate. What it does is I want to join my first name and last name together and put it in this cell. So to do this calculation, I have to go to Formulas tab, and this is a text. So there is a text category in the functions, and then I look for this function called concatenate, and you see when you point to it, it will always tell you what this function will do. Or if you want it, even when you are in home, you just click on this FX button and you can type the word con and then hit enter, and then a lot of time you'll get those functions here. So let me try it again. Concatenate. I'll just concat and I'll choose all and I'll hit go. So usually the function should show up. Something's going wrong with this computer. I don't know why. I'll have to type the whole thing right now. Concatenate. And there it is. I'll click OK. And it opens up like this, which will do even from the other way. I'll just move this down a little. I'll point here and I'll move this down. Now what is my text one? I'll say my first name is my text one. So you don't type the word Amir. I click in the cell because that's the way we do things in Excel. And I'll click in the text two and I'll click on my last name and I'll click OK. And it will join my first and last name together, and now I can use the fill handle to move it down, so all the things will be done. So this is the way concatenate function works. Now I'll show it to you again in a different way, and this time I want to put a space in the middle, so I can go to Formulas, Text, Concatenate. Now first name, text 1 is my first name. I go to text 2. Now in the text 2 I want to put a space, so I'll put the space button on the keyboard. I'll press it one time, so that will put a space. I go to text 3, which is my last name. So you see you can add multiple words together, which is called strings, so I can keep on adding up to 255 strings together. I click OK and I look for the fill handle and I pull it down, and there it is with the spacing. So this is called concatenate. So if you had a whole bunch of things, you can just do this. Now on sheet 4 we'll do the last thing, which is I have my first name and last name together with a comma in the middle, and I want to split it up. So we are trying to do the reverse process of what we did with concatenate. So to do that, I'll go to the data tab, and in the data type they have an option called text to columns. I'll choose that and it opens this wizard. Now in this wizard it is asking me to choose, are you using some characters just such as comma or tabs, or is this a fixed width? Fixed width would mean that my first names are all the same length. So if in that character, those things you can do that, but in this case I need to use delimited because I'm using a comma, and I'll choose next. Now what am I using? Am I using tab? I said no, not tab. I'm using a comma. As soon as I choose that, you'll see that the line shows up here. So if you keep looking at the bottom again, you see there is no line, comma, it puts it there. If I had used space, I choose the space. If other, I click in here, then I have to choose that character that I've used between them, whatever the character might be. So I'll put comma, I click next. Now you can format it if you want it for certain things. You can just leave it general for now. Now the destination is asking, where is the destination of this? If you want it, you could say the destination should be G2. So it will put it away. If you don't, then what it will do is it will overwrite the existing column. So let me show you what happens when I hit finish. So you see, it overwrites it. Amir is here and my last name is here. I'll do it one more time, but this time I'll highlight all of these guys. And I'll go to text to columns, delimited, next, comma is already chosen. I need to remove the other because I don't need it here. Next, and I choose finish, so they all have been moved. Now in this I've got the colon, so I'll highlight it. I'll go to text to columns, delimited, next. Now instead of comma, I'll click in the other and I'll type the colon. So I'll have to type it here because I don't have the options here. I click next, Now instead of putting in the C2, I'll click this symbol here, and then I'll say put it to say G2. I'll bring this guy down back, and I'll click finish. So you see it keeps it here, but then it splits the information on this side. So that should do it for this video, and hopefully in the upcoming videos we'll do some more functions and also look at charts. Thank you for watching.